onto Driedagse Brugge de Panne. Recap of that race. It's a one-day race. They keep changing the course, changing how many days it is, changing what it's called. It's called the Oxyclean, whatever that is. Probably Benji's shell company that he funnels funds through. Who is the favourites for the stage, Benji? And explain what the marshes are.
Okay, I'll talk about it. So basically, first of all, the parkour. Well, let's talk about the race first. Oxyclean Classic Brugge de Panne. In the previous years, this was known as the Driedagse de Panne, Brugge de Panne. And, some people noted that it was a one-day race, while it was called Driedagse, which means 3 days in English. So that is not ideal. It had some reason that there's a junior race or a women's race as well, and then the 3 races together would be the 3 days of Brugge de Panne. But yeah, that's not logical still. And in the end, they changed that to a sponsor this time around, Oxyclean Classic Brugge de Panne, which is financially a good choice, I'd say, because it's probably much better to just name it after a sponsor, your name, because it's extra funds that go towards the organization of this, definitely in a period during a COVID period. That's definitely going to matter. But all in all, the sprinters were likely going to be lining up here because this parkour is usually known for having echelons sometimes. And this is because the pathway of the parkour, the route, goes through the Muren, which are the marshes. And this is a very, very open area in West-Flanders, the best province in the world. And there's a lot of wind there because it's near the ocean and so forth.
This is where Benji lives, by the way.
Yeah, it's the ideal hiding spot. So I think that I was hoping that echelons would form. This is also why in Gent-Wevelgem early on, you often have echelons because it also goes through this period just before they start the hills in Gent-Wevelgem. But today, it didn't really work out too much when it comes to echelons. The first time they went through it was near the middle of the stage, perhaps, something like that. And the peloton split up there for a tiny bit, I think for like not even a minute, and then was back together again. So wasn't really going anywhere. And then it all came back together, and the sprinters teams were controlling the pack again. So in the end, I think that from that point onwards, knowing that it didn't work the first time around, and they tried the first time around, that it would also not really work the second time they go through that with a good 40 kilometers to go. So I was hoping that something would happen, but again, saw some attempts for echelons, but didn't work out. Now, it would come down to a sprint. Who are the favorites? Sam Bennett's here with the Koenig Quickstep. Every race he rides, he is one of the best sprinters at the start, one of the 2 best sprinters in the world. And he had Merku here as lead out, so he's destined to be all-out favorite here. When it comes to the rest of the riders in this, Jasper Philipsen had a pretty mediocre season so far. Bad one, I must say. Pascal Ackermann for Bora Hansgrohe, the king of timing sprints. Nizzolo, Timothy Dupont, and so forth. So I think those are the biggest names. I think Gaviria was here, but we haven't seen anything from Gaviria all season, really. So I'm not really naming him too much. Viviani was one of the riders I was perhaps looking for as well, knowing that he's been pretty good at the UAE Tour after having that heart injury and heart surgery thingy. But Kees Bol was then the last sprinter that I was looking for. And basically, it was all going perfectly for one team, and that's the Koenig Quickstep, because we always know that they go towards a front in a sprint very, very late. So in the last kilometer and a half, last kilometer, they try and move their entire team to the front. This final kilometer had one very important corner, and this is the final corner that leads into the final straight to the line. This corner is in the final kilometer. So that corner, you need to be in that corner first. And before that corner, some other teams were poking their head towards the front, but just before that corner, 4 people came to the front. The entire Koenig Quickstep team, with Merku ahead of Bennett, and I think Van Lerberg ahead of Merku as well as third lead out. I don't have a clue who the first rider was in the 4-man train, but I didn't really think about that too much, because they went into the corner. The first rider went off the front. Van Lerberg started his sprinting. Then we had Merku in his wheel, 425 meters to go or something. Pretty early, to be honest. I was kind of surprised. Merku starts his lead out. Entire line of sprinters in the peloton. It's, I think, Ackermann and Philipsen in the wheels of Bennett. I think Philipsen was in the wheel of Bennett, and Ackermann was behind
no. They were half each in the wheel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're
So they were
barely in the
fighting for the
wheel.
wheel, but didn't get it.
Yeah, getting half a
And
draft
well,
each.
Merku took over. Merku took over in that lead out. And if you know that you have one of the two best sprinters in the world in the position second wheel, just behind his lead out, then he's in the ideal position. But one thing went a tiny bit wrong, I think. That's the fact that the two sprinters behind Bennett were starting to start their sprint and they were kind of boxing in Bennett at a certain point. And Bennett had to pass Merku in a pretty uncomfortable fashion where Merku had to kind of move to the left without blocking Philipsen. And Bennett had to get out of the wheel of Merku without pushing Ackermann in the barrier, who was trying to move on his right. So a bit uncomfortable, but nobody really endangered anyone here. Bennett was able to come out just in time out of that sandwich ahead of Ackermann and Philipsen. And I don't think we need to put too much words to it. He was the strongest sprinter here, and he smashed it to the line. Like, it wasn't even
Oh,
close at the end.
the minute he kicked, it was done. Like, he got 3-4 bike lengths on Ackermann the second he kicked. I did think for a second he might lose just by virtue of the what Benji described, him getting pinched. If Ackermann had just got ahead of him a little bit, because Bennett got surprised by Philipsen launching early. Philipsen tried the same thing in a Vuelta stage, early Vuelta stage last year, and nearly beat him out of a late corner. But yeah, without boxing in Bennett, it was pretty much a formality. He was able to get back in the saddle with 25 meters to go. And I think Benji might have tweeted it or something saying these other sprinters need to think about something differently, because if you're sitting in his wheel with 400 to go and then Merku kicks and Bennett still has two sides of the road to choose from, you're not going to beat him unless you're Caleb Ewan, and you get really lucky if you're Caleb Ewan. So, yep, he's too good at the moment, and so is the DeKernick lead out, winning 3 Ducks. Shame there wasn't crosswinds. Definitely got overshadowed by Catalunya today. Benji, do you think if Cav was in the wheel, he would have still won?
Now, of course he would have. Come on, man. It's Mark Cavagna.
Oh, I need
Yeah.
Cav to win. People were
Me
asking
as
us
well.
yesterday where was the emergency pod, just because he was wearing a leaders jersey in a 2-1 race for the day. I was like, stop. But yeah, to kind of quick step, lead out, and Bennett remains undefeated. Nothing more to say for 3 Ducks of Brugge de Pan, but it's now 1 Duckser or ein Duckser. That's the extent of my Dutch, and I think
Sounds
that's a
more
good
German
place.
than Dutch.
Yeah, I mean, I speak more German than Dutch. We're off topic. We'll see you tomorrow for the Catalonia Stage 4. If you want to catch that on the other YouTube video, if you listen on YouTube, or give us a like on those videos, it's much appreciated. Ciao.